Good morning. I hope you can hear me okay. It's a little breezy up here. It doesn't look like it's windy, but I can feel a chilly breeze around my ears. So I'm not going to stand here for long, but I'm going to take you for a walk. I'm standing at the top of the Melindor Valley at a place called Bog Llantrarian, which is a forestry visitor centre, which has become one of my regular spots. And we're going to go for a walk, and then I'm going to go and treat myself to breakfast in the cafe. Let's go and have a walk. There are a number of walks here, but generally I do the easiest one, which is the one that we're going to do today, and it's just a walk that goes round the lake and past the spot where every day the red kites gather and are fed, and it's one of the main attractions of this spot. And there's a lovely sculpture of a red kite, which seems to be enclosed. It didn't used to be. I've been able to get a lot closer to it than that in the past, but quite impressive. So every day at I think 3 o'clock in the summer, and then when the clocks change, which they're about to, 2 o'clock, the kites are fed just on the other side of the lake, and there's a couple of vantage points where you can stand, including a hide, which I'll show you on the other side of the lake. And it's quite spectacular. Get very close to the kites, and I don't know, there's hundreds gather every day. I'm lucky enough to have kites at home, not hundreds, but often you see a kite flying across the sky at home, but it's nothing compared to the cloud of them which gather here every day. I used to wonder how they knew to come at the different times in the winter and the summer, until I realised that they change the time they feed them in the winter, which of course makes much more sense. But I thought somehow these clever kites worked out that it's winter now, so we have to come an hour earlier. But that's not the case, of course. For them it's the same time. But I'm here early this morning, so it's very quiet. It often is quiet. It's busy during the school holidays and throughout the summer, but once the summer season is over, it's a lovely quiet spot to come to, and it does, as I said in the introduction, have the advantage of having a cafe, which is fantastic. They do great soup, and they do, which is what I'm going to have today, Glamorganshire sausages, which are, if you don't know, are a vegetarian sausage. Is it Glamorganshire or Glamorgan sausage? It might just be Glamorgan sausage, actually. But my mind is on breakfast. It's about 10 o'clock, I think. I left the house at about 9, and often by then I would have had some sort of breakfast, but I thought I would wait this morning. The cafe here opens at 10, so by the time we've had our little walk, hopefully the cafe will be open. So this is the lake. I often smile because I imagine if you're in North America watching this looks much more like a pond rather than a lake. It's not huge, but it gets called a lake here. I don't know for sure actually. I imagine it's man-made, but I don't actually know whether that's true or not. It might not be actually, considering where we are. We're right at the top of the valley. The mountain road out of Aberystwyth goes past those windmills here, and we're pretty high up. So in the winter, there's usually snow on the ground here, and the road sometimes back there is often closed. So this is one of the spots where you can stand and watch the kites being fed, but you might just be able to see across the water is the hide, which is where I usually walk to. And can stand there. Lots of people with cameras in the summer taking photographs and videos of the kites. It does get a little tiring standing there. I know a couple of times I rather overdid things standing, watching the kites. I tend to find it easier to walk slowly than to stand still. But here also you can sit, and in the summer it's a nice spot to sit, and I've sat before on these tree stumps and watched the kites being fed from here. So right overhead, and then they'll swoop down and gather their food from just outside the hide. Gosh, it really is quiet here today. I wonder if I'm the only person here again. I seem to be having walks in places where I'm the only person. I know in the car park that there were some cars parked. I imagine some of them are for staff, but I don't see anybody else walking around the lake. This is a really good walk for me. It's not completely flat, but it's as you can see, it's got a hard surface, so it's very easy to walk around. It's wheelchair friendly, so it's a very good spot for people to come if they have trouble walking. And there are a couple of other walks here, bigger walks, which I have done in the past. I haven't done for a few years, but really hardly been here at all before the summer before last. It's the sort of place that if people visit, we would have brought them to, rather than the place that I think of as somewhere, or used to think of somewhere I'd come myself. Sort of more of a visitor's attraction. And maybe that's because usually when I visited it was in the summer and it was busy, but it feels like a lovely quiet spot at this time of year, and certainly this early. It's very popular with bird watchers, not just for the kites, but lots of other birds too. There's a few different hides around the place. I think there's one we're coming up to a little path that goes off, which I think goes up to a new hide, which I visited a little look round last summer on a very, very hot day. As you've probably heard me saying, that last summer was incredibly hot here. I think the hottest summer I've known here, and yeah. So being out in it was a bit of a challenge. Had lots of floppy hats, well, a floppy hat. A summer floppy hat, yes. So just down there, there's another hide. And we shall carry on walking around here. So it's as I'm beginning to know quite well. I don't know anywhere near as well as the woods at Trouscoid, which we walked in last week, but I am starting to know it. I know one day when we came in the summer, the lake itself was very, very low, and I was wondering whether it really was low, whether I didn't know what it was like, but it was low. But today, much more normal. But it is chilly. I think I continue with these walks as the months and the weeks get colder. I'm going to have to get myself some gloves. I'm holding my camera with my hand and I can feel it getting rather cold. So I think some gloves are called for. Oh, I can see someone walking around on the other side. I'm not quite alone. So this is the spot where the kite feeder would come at about 2:45. If you're waiting, in fact, there's the new hide I was talking about a moment ago. At about 2:45, someone with a wheelbarrow starts to walk around the lake, and they go through that gate and start to put the food down for the kites. And after, you can watch them the wheelbarrow going back around the lake afterwards. Once when I came, I don't know what stopped them, but the kites just wouldn't come down. All this food down, and so we all watched the wheelbarrow being wheeled round the lake rather than looked at the kites. So this is the little way. We'll go and have a quick look here, I think. This is where the main hide is for watching the kites. I imagine it's going to be completely empty this morning, but it'll be busier at about 2 o'clock today. Good spot. So just out there is where the kites country fed. So they just swoop down, they don't land, they just grab the meat in their talons and swoop up again. And there's usually a few other birds about just waiting for the spoils, the leftovers. A lovely spot. I just realised there are seats here, but of course if you sit on them, unless the place is really quiet, you don't see anything because everyone is at the windows. Maybe actually during this time of year perhaps it's a bit quiet, maybe it will be possible to sit down. Oh, there we are. So I think we're about halfway around the lake, perhaps a little bit more. So I will stop in a moment so that this section isn't too long to upload. Let's just get back to the path. And I'm going to head to the cafe for my breakfast, and I hope that you'll join me for a work session in my studio in a little while. Good morning. It's a couple of days since I finished the walk. I had a really lovely breakfast. It turns out that the cafe at Bolton Under Arian has a separate breakfast menu. I did have breakfast there years ago, but in recent times when I visited, I've not seen any indication of breakfast on their menu, but there was a blackboard up with breakfast on it. So I actually had a lovely cooked breakfast. They do a vegetarian breakfast, a Welsh vegetarian breakfast that includes the Glamorgan sausages that I mentioned. So I shall go back and do it again. Maybe go back and not have a walk next time, just go and have breakfast. Join me for some work, 20 minutes on the clock. I have my blanket out ready. It seems to take me a little while to get myself set up out here with it. It's got to be quite bulky. The bag that I keep it in is getting fuller of blanket and less full of balls of wool, which I think is probably a good sign. It means I must be getting through it. Though I think I'm sort of in the middle bit, and the middle bit feels a bit Savannah-ish. Feels like it goes on. I've slowed down. I think that's definitely part of it. But I'm keeping going a little bit at a time. I am doing quite a little bit most mornings at the moment in bed, as well as out here during this work session. And I'm also making, I think I probably mentioned last week, I'm making a library of midweek work sessions as well, which will be part of my Patreon offering when I launch that, probably next week. Well, probably, definitely next week. I'm not going to say probably, definitely next week. Next week's video podcast, I shall include the link to the Patreon page, and also mention it elsewhere as well. But a bit stuck with it, actually. Thought I was doing quite well. I was stuck with it for a very long time, not quite knowing how to use it, changing how I wanted to use Patreon. And I had a bit of a breakthrough 2 or 3 weeks ago, which I think I mentioned in one of these podcasts. And I thought I was on a bit of a roll. Well, I was on a bit of a roll for a while. Got the page written and the offerings put together. And then I felt really quite stuck again. But I think I just have to move. I think I just have to launch it. So I've set a date. The way Patreon's set up is that when someone signs up, they're immediately billed for the day they sign up, and then they're billed on the first day of every month after that. So if you were to sign up today, there's only a little bit of a month left. I feel a little bit awkward about asking people to sign up with only a little bit of a month left. There is quite a library of content, so perhaps I shouldn't feel silly and guilty about it, but nonetheless I do. I'm, as well as the midweek work sessions, I'm also doing some regular mini vlogs, so little video vlogs about, well, at the moment they're largely about the launch of the Patreon, but generally how I am, what I'm thinking about, the ups and downs of trying to live this gentle life that I'm trying to build, and have been trying to build for a very long time. And it's a bit unusual for me to actually be discussing the not so good days as well as the good days. I tend to well, I want to be positive. I mean, I don't want to paint a unrealistic picture of my life, but at the same time I don't want to just be dragged down into talking about the hard stuff, because it isn't all of it. It isn't everything by any means. So certainly over the years on social media and my blog and my podcasts, I've tried to put the emphasis on the good stuff. But in these vlogs, I'm a little more willing to be there with even more warts and all than you usually see. So I've actually been vlogging from bed, a few times, which feels like a good step, actually. I've always thought it would be good to have online meetings from bed on days when it's necessary. I mean, I work from bed quite a lot. I work in bed quite a lot. So that is a big part of my life. So yeah, it was a bit of a step to actually talk from bed. But it feels like a good thing, actually. So if you're interested, they're all the vlogs I've done so far are available on Patreon, and I shall continue to add them. So there is a reasonable amount of content there already, if you were to sign up. Different tiers, starting at $4 for simply being kind enough to support the podcast. And I think I'm offering, but I will be offering discounts on courses as well for people who sign up for the $4 tier. I'm also hoping, depending on how I get on, to release this video podcast early on Patreon. So if you're a supporter on Patreon, you will get to see this before it appears on YouTube. I managed to do that last week. I'm not sure I'm going to get to it this week. This week's been a bit of a struggle, actually. But anyway, we'll see. But that would be nice going forward, if I can do that. We'll see if that's realistic. And then there's an $8 tier where you get an extra midweek work session as a thank you for supporting at that level. And I think I've got about 5 of those there at the moment. So I've been making those for a few weeks. They're much like this section of the podcast. But a chance to do it again. So chatting and working on whatever my current project is. Sometimes I might switch a little between what I'm doing in the main podcast and what I'm doing in the midweek work sessions. I don't know, but at the moment I've been working mostly. I think I might have done the sock one week, but I think mostly I've been working on this blanket. Then there is a $16 and $32 tier, which offer basically the same thing, just depending on the difference is just how much you're able and willing to support me with. And at that tier, the main thank you is the vlog posts. So there's quite a lot of those each week. They will build up into quite a library. Yeah. I have a few little ideas for little extras around the $32 tier as well, but I'm not going to say what they are yet, partly because I'm not completely clear myself, and also I don't want to set myself up to do more than I can, so I'm being a bit careful around that. But if you like a little bit of potluck, maybe consider that tier. I will be incredibly grateful. So that's it. I did have a couple of other tiers, more expensive tiers as well. For the time being, I've not added those because they involved much more of me being available at certain times, and at the moment I just don't feel like that's sensible. For me, this Patreon is an experiment with both finding for me a sustainable amount of work that I can do each week, hopefully useful work for me and for all of you, and then to find a way that I can earn a living from that. So I'm doing what I'm able to do. I'm not pushing myself beyond what I'm able to do, which is something I've done for years. I mean, I'm reasonably good at looking after myself, but I always feel like I need to give a little bit more than I'm really able to do. And this experiment is about giving a little less than I'm able to do, so I'm not at the edge, and hopefully a bit of a buffer between the edge, so that life, I can enjoy life. Ooh, feels a bit scary. It feels very scary. But if you are able to support me at whatever level, I will be incredibly grateful. So thank you in advance. And I shall add the link next week when I send out next week's Go Gently podcast video. Ooh, dear, yeah. I didn't actually think I was going to talk about that today. I didn't really have much of a plan what I was going to talk about in today's work session, but there we are. That's what I've talked about. And this month, as part of my experiment, I'm just doing this. I'm just doing, with one or two tiny exceptions, I'm just doing the Patreon work. So I'm just making the podcast, the video podcast, making the work sessions, the midweek work sessions, and recording vlog posts. Not doing anything else, and just really seeing how that is. As well as that, I'm not taking a week off each month, or this month. If you've been around for a while, you'll know that for quite a long time now, probably a couple of years almost, I think. Might even be a couple of years. I think it probably is. I think it was September 2016 I started taking a week off every month. I took, it's varied a little, but at the moment I've been taking the week following the first Sunday of every month off. The idea being that it would mean I would get a complete rest every week, every month, but also I hoped it would mean that those weeks would be weeks when I could do other things, enjoy my life. Not that I don't enjoy a lot of what I do around work, but mostly that's where my energy goes. It goes, the work that I do is mostly where my life is focused and my energy goes. And that's been the case for a few years now. And as my health has gone in the direction I wouldn't want it to go in, that's been even more the case. There's been less left over for enjoying life. So I took these weeks off once a week, once a month, and they've been good in lots of ways. I mean, they have been a rest, but the truth is, every time they roll around, I'm in desperate need for them. I've never really, with again one or two exceptions, I've never really been able to enjoy them. I've been using them as recovery time, and I wonder if they have just been another example of that kind of boom and bust, that energy boom and bust, which is quite a feature, I think, of people who have chronic illnesses, particularly around energy. We do too much, we crash, we recover. We do too much, we crash, we recover. And whilst it hasn't been as extreme as that, I wonder if it is still that same pattern. So I'm interested in finding a level of activity that doesn't need that can be a gentle, sustainable level of activity. Now, I would still want to have breaks and holidays, but not the need for these rest weeks that I feel like I'm just kind of very much heading towards all the time, just desperate for my rest week. Perhaps that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I'm sure you understand what I mean. So, yeah, I don't know. This month, I thought I would see what it was like without a rest week, but also cutting back a lot on what I just did, what I'm offering on Patreon. The jury's out on how successful it's been. I have this week. It's been a hard week. I got a bit too cold when I went for the walk with you earlier on in the week. And yeah, recovering from that has been a bit difficult. Not really been able to do much. But also other stuff going on at the moment as well is sapping my energy. Not particularly not work stuff at all, actually, generally. But yeah. But there's always other stuff going on. That has to be part of the plan. Gosh, I'm sorry. I hope you could hear me. This is just... I thought it might rain when I was looking out of the window when I first sat down at my desk. But it's I think it's hailing, actually. It seems really quite... Is that hail or is that just rain? I can't really... It might just be really heavy rain, actually. Anyway, there we are. Enough of all of that. How has your week been? What have you been... Well, what have you been working on? What are you working on at the moment? I'd love to hear. I've really enjoyed being at home, being quiet this week, lighting the fire. I've spent quite a lot of my afternoons on the sofa in front of the fire, alternating between bed and the sofa. It is so nice. It's so nice to have the firelight. Usually, during the summer, we would still be lighting the fire, particularly in the evenings, but this last summer has been so hot that there was no need. So it feels like a bit of an event, lighting the fire again, a bit of a celebration. And yeah, just love that. So I'm going to do that again today. I'm going to, after this, After I finish this and edited the podcast together, I will, I think, go and sit on the sofa in front of the fire. I wonder if it might be an afternoon to find an Agatha Christie to watch, maybe. I don't know. Ooh, I need to turn this round. That wasn't too bad. I've also got my porridge gently bubbling on the stove. I'm going to go and have that when I finish this. In fact, before I do anything else, I'm going to have that. I will set the video. Or I should take the video, get the video off my phone and onto my computer, but or at least get it started doing the transfer, and then I'm going to go into the house and have my porridge. With some hot buttered toast. I'm quite craving nice stodgy food at the moment. I made a rhubarb and apple crumble a couple of days ago, which is just so nice with custard. Though actually I've got, someone asked me, Judy, if you're watching, if I had any custard, and I said I cheated. I've got some vanilla soya dessert, which tastes just like custard, and it's ready-made, so... I made the crumble, but I didn't make the custard. There we are. I do seem to get to roughly the same point every time I have a work session. Let's just finish this set of stitches. There we go. How did you get on? I hope you've had a good 20 minutes. Sorry, I was rabbiting on rather a lot about Patreon, wasn't I? But it's obviously there. It's in my head at the moment. Thank you for watching. It's lovely to have your company. Do let me know, as always, what you've been up to. It's always lovely to hear what you're doing in the podcast, but also what you've been doing during the week. I hope you've had a good week. If, like me, you've had a low energy week, I hope you've been able to look after yourself and accept that, yeah, sometimes things don't go quite to plan.
I didn't catch that.
Oh, that's because I wasn't talking to you. Oh, I've been distracted. I've been distracted by Alexa, and that's when she's going to do it again, isn't she? Alexa, cancel. Don't say the name. Have a lovely week. Look out next week for the link to Patreon, and yeah, I'd be very grateful if you are able to support me at some level over Patreon. Take care. I shall see you very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.